because Studio 76 had some shooters on the floor for this one. Really cool to see the guys all together to mark the moment in what has been an excellent season. Back at the center for the second night of a back-to-back as the Sixers seek their 8th straight victory. I believe there in the distance is Shake Milton getting loose. The team has one more game at home before they head out for 2 on the road, come back for 2 more at home, and then that is a wrap on the regular season for the East leading 76ers. It's been a good run so far, and if you really think about it, we're just getting started. What's going on, everybody? I am Lauren Rosen. Welcome into 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. Brian Seltzer has the night off, and I am joined by the esteemed Matt Murphy, who you've probably seen on Blue Coats broadcast. He does a little bit of everything. There's nothing he can't do. Matt, thank you for doing this with me tonight.
Thank you, Lauren. It's great to be making my hosting debut here on 7-6 Countdown Live. Glad to be here. Let's hope we can keep the streak going. The Sixers 7-game win streak, season long, lot to get to, but I'm excited.
I am excited as well. That season-long streak that you mentioned, the longest active streak in the NBA right now. Sixers look for number 8 on the second night of their back-to-back. And this is the part that we like to get to right away, talking injuries. The Sixers have a couple folks questionable tonight. They are some key folks. Seth Curry questionable due to left hip recovery. Joel Embiid questionable due to left knee recovery. Ben Simmons questionable due to back tightness. Furkan Korkmaz is out as of now. We do not have a further update on those questionable 3 starters. If one comes up, though, during the show, we will keep you posted. The opponent, Detroit Pistons, tonight will be deeply shorthanded without Dennis Smith Jr., Rodney McGruder, Josh Jackson, Hamidou Diallo all out, Wayne Ellington, Jeremy Grant, and Corey Joseph all questionable. So thought we'd get that off right off the bat. And again, if things change while we are streaming, we will let you know. The Sixers coming off of an interesting win on the first night of a back-to-back. All wins count the same. That is something that this team the Pelicans.
Lost you for a second there at the end, Lauren. But yeah, to the injury report real quick, just to touch on that, it's a common theme to see the opponent with a lengthy list. A couple of Sixers on there, but we'll see who ends up taking the floor for both sides shortly. And then a win is a win. I mean, the streak is still going. I think it cannot be understated how important the number 1 seed is going to be in the East. Everybody knows that the path of a first round with Charlotte or Indiana or Washington into the Knicks or the Hawks, still 5 regular season games that could shift things around, but that number 1 seed path looking really good. And to not be playing your best at times and still riding a winning streak, that is a good sign.
Yeah, more on that from Danny Green in just a little bit. He's talked about the merit of winning close games, even if they're closer than the team might have wanted them to be, like last night against the Pelicans. But let's talk about last night against the Pelicans. Joel Embiid, another MVP-worthy performance, 37 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. He had a heck of a first half, making sure that he got the team the separation that they ended up giving up in the second half. The Sixers led by as many as 17 in that one and then fell behind by as many as 7. But they covered the deficit pretty quickly, and Matt, that was a silver lining, if you ask me.
Huge first half from Embiid, as you said. And I think getting to the free throw line is always a big thing for him. 10 of 10 just in the first half, finished 12 of 12. And then when the starters came back in, trailing by 7 in the fourth, Tobias took over a little bit, and a great call from Tom McGinnis on the radio listening to the game. He was talking about how the Pelicans were getting really hype on the bench. And then when Tobias started taking over, he said, "This ain't the Big Easy, pal," after a couple Tobias buckets. So that was pretty electric, but you wish they didn't have to come back in, but they took care of business.
Always love hearing those calls from Tom McGinnis. And you mentioned it. Tobias Harris came in on a mission. It's something we've talked about all season long. He wants to be a closer for this team, and he's shown time and time again that he can do just that. When the team was down 7, we saw Tobias Harris and Danny Green with back-to-back threes, covering that deficit really quickly. So again, you don't want to see yourself give up a 17-point lead, but if you do, the fact that you're able to create separation almost immediately when the starters came back in, a silver lining for the group last night.
Yeah, I think the three-point shooting was a big thing as well, making 15 threes and shooting at 43% perhaps more importantly, but the game notes number I'll throw in is that they're 13-0 when they make at least 15 threes. So in a close game like that, hitting a bunch from beyond the arc at a high clip really proved to be a big difference in the win.
Yeah, I love that stat, Matt. Another one that I loved is Joel Embiid's free throws. You mentioned it. I'm not sure if we can. Sometimes I'm perfect on the highlights, and we see him getting fouled just as I start talking about free throws. But either way, like you said, 10 for 10 in the first half from the line, 12 for 12 overall. He has hit more free throws this season than any other NBA player, and that is a total number. We know Joel has missed some time due to injury, due to health and safety protocols as well, still shooting more free throws than anybody else. And George Hill showed some really good stuff leading the bench last night. We're going to hear from George Hill in just a bit. But Matt, I've loved the veteran presence George Hill has brought to this team. What do you think about his early games with the Sixers?
Yeah, the thing that I think about with George Hill is that when he was acquired, yes, his three-point percentage leading the league in the past in that category was a big talking point. But also, I paid attention to people describing him as a two-way player. And he had a little bit of a rough draw going against Stephen Curry at the height of his hot streak. But I think he's starting to settle in, and the importance of George Hill as a two-way player. He hit a big three against the Pelicans. I think is going to continue to prove how important that is as we move along.
No doubt. Speaking of big threes, love that celebration from Tobias. It's something we talk about a lot. Tobias, not always the biggest celebrator. He doesn't emote a ton, but when he does, you know that something big just happened. He was huge for the team last night down the stretch. Some people that do emote pretty well. Archie and Christian Crosby, Sixers ENT, always bringing the energy, always bringing the fire. And I believe we're going to hear from them in just a second.
Yes, we're back again. 76 Live Countdown Show presented by Tissot, the official watch for the NBA and your Philadelphia 76ers. I am your main man, Archie, and standing to my right, maybe your left, depending on how you're looking at the TV, is my main man, Christian Crosby.
That's a great introduction. Thank you, Archie. I'm just ready for some Sixers basketball. But I'm more excited tonight, I can't lie, about the auction that is happening. We have a sneaker auction presented by Snipes. All proceeds are going to the Sixers Youth Foundation. But let's get really into it for a second here. I'm standing right next to game-worn, autographed Tobias Harris sneakers. I know you got the Ben Simmons autographed sneakers, game-worn next to you. And over here, Danny Green, and we're not done. How could I forget about the autographed game-worn Joel Embiid sneakers? These are just 4 of many sneakers that are being auctioned off tonight, and the auction ends at the end of tonight's game. So we're telling everybody, even you guys at home, place your bids. You can go to SixersYouthFoundation.org to figure that out and get those bids in as soon as possible. Archie, let's get to the fun.
Let's do it. Let's go right to the fun, ladies and gentlemen, with the best drum line in the NBA. They need no introduction, but I'm going to give them one anyway. The Sixers.
Gotta love the Sixers. One more reminder for you guys, all of the proceeds benefit the Sixers Youth Foundation. This is the sneaker auction presented by Snipes. So many sneakers available. All you guys gotta go is to SixersYouthFoundation.org and place your bids. Archie, take us out of here.
You know what to do. Sit back, relax, and grab your snacks. Be a good one. Detroit Pistons versus your Philadelphia 76ers. In the meantime, and in between time, we're gonna have a good time, and you should too. So let's go Sixers!
Archie, Christian Crosby, Sixers ENT, the Sixers, got to give them a shout out for the energy they brought all season long. It's been awesome to have Sixers fans back in the building, but they have been bringing that energy since long before there were fans in the building, and I know that they're appreciated by the players, by the staff, and by the city of Philadelphia for the energy they bring every night. And Matt, we got to talk about these sneakers. Like Christian said, that auction ends tonight, benefiting a great cause, the Sixers Youth Foundation. You can still bid on your favorite Sixers, past and present. You can bid on their sneakers until the buzzer tonight. Matt, there are some awesome shoes on this auction. Not to put you on the spot or anything, but do you have a favorite sneaker available in the auction?
I have just been amazed at when you look at the list that it just keeps going and going with cool pairs. I'm going to pick Matisse Thybulles because the cool thing is that they're game worn and signed, and you can truly tell that Matisse's are game worn because there's some defensive effort that shows through on his pair of sneakers in the auction. So that's the one that caught my eye.
And it's that type of attention to detail, Matt Murphy, that makes you so good at what you do. I did not notice the scuff marks, and as soon as you said it, I went to check it out. You really see the pounding that these sneakers take, especially as when you're as active as Matisse Thybulle is. Personally, I love Shake Milton's Kobe's. Shake is almost always wearing Kobe's, paying tribute to one of his heroes, one of my heroes, one of our heroes. Those Kobe's are cool. It's an awesome colorway. If you haven't checked out the Youth Foundation auction, please do between now and tonight's game. During the game, you still have a couple hours to bid on some awesome stuff to support an awesome cause. Back to the matchup ahead. As we've mentioned, the Sixers are looking for their 8th straight victory, their 7-game winning streak, the longest active streak in the league, but somewhere that they've said, Matt, that they want to improve is putting their foot on the gas early and holding on throughout. These haven't been the top opponents in the league, and they've given up a few leads. So good to hear that the team is embracing the opportunity to play in close games, but they know that there's another level that they can unlock in these final 5 games.
Yeah, I think especially on the defensive end of the floor, which I know we're going to talk about later on as we really get into previewing the matchup with Detroit, but it's a long season. I know it's shortened this year in terms of the general NBA schedule, but sometimes these lulls come and you start to lose games. So the fact that they overcome some portions of games and still come out, like we said, with a W in the win-loss column has been huge. But just looking at the injury report every game when they're going up against some undermanned teams, you just got to keep getting up for each game and finding a way. And they've been finding a way, but we know there's another gear, and maybe that's on the defensive end, which we'll touch on. It was touched on post-game last night by Doc Rivers and some of the players, but just some perimeter defense playing with a bit more energy throughout the game. And it's tough. It's been a tough part of the schedule. I mean, look at that road trip they were just on, Texas, Chicago, back to Texas, and then you come back home and you have a back-to-back right away. So it's been an odd portion of the schedule, and it's been jammed-packed.
Matt, it's interesting that you mentioned the lulls that come in any NBA season, particularly a challenging, condensed, congested schedule like this season. Danny Green, who has played on 2 consecutive and 3 NBA champion teams, says that all good teams go through lulls, and a silver lining here is that they have found a way to win even during what he considers a lull in intensity. Danny talked about it post-game last night.
I guess human nature, but as a team, as a mature team, we need to starting and finishing games, and throughout the duration of games, staying locked in and be more focused. But if you're looking at the positive of it, it's always good to have some experience down the stretch, be in a tight, close game, get some wins to be able to execute. But we need to do better with being mature, staying locked in, and playing the full 48 as if we're playing the top team in the league, no matter who's on the floor or not. It's more about us at this point.
Danny Green, Matt, has been an excellent source of leadership for this team all season long. We talked about it a bit during the highlight package, but George Hill, a late add to this team and a late add to the leadership group. He's been tremendously vocal. 11 points last night, 4 of 7 from the field. There he is warming up live, thanks to our man Ryan Coletti, resuming in on Mr. Hill as we talk to him. But yes, led the bench, 11 points last night, and played in some of the closing minutes of last night's game. Doc Rivers said just prior to our stream that he enjoys having George Hill as a late game option because of the veteran leadership that he brings, the experience that he brings. And it's been cool to see him go ahead and get comfortable with this team relatively quickly.
Right. It certainly has. first of all, Danny Green's comments definitely coming from a mentality of a championship mentality, a guy that's been there and been through things like this. And when it comes to George Hill, I think about both of these guys, Green and Hill, because I loved Tyrese Maxey's comments recently about what each of these veteran leaders and the type of veterans that the Sixers have and what they bring to the table. But George Hill, a big guy coming off the bench, it is good to see him finding his footing, because if it's not Seth Curry out there and it's Green and Hill playing together at the same time with some of the other Sixers cornerstones, that's a different look. It's a bigger look. He actually said that after the game, and he just wants to add some shooting when and where he can. And last night was a good example of that.
No doubt about it, Matt. Cool to see him play alongside Danny Green for defensive punch in that majority starter unit, and then awesome to see him play alongside Matisse Thybulle as well in that second unit. Now both units have a lot of defense, a lot of defensive backup, particularly when you look at Hill and Thybulle, who have both played in that prominent primary first rotation. So cool to see George get up to speed. Doc Rivers was praising George Hill just moments ago ahead of tonight's game. He said he's terrific defensively, and he's looking forward to seeing how he starts to get along with Shake Milton. It's been cool to watch their chemistry develop too, Matt.
Certainly has. And George was asked about Shake after the game, and just finding a way to let him do his thing at the beginning and learn about how Shake plays. But for Shake to have a veteran presence like George Hill as part of that unit is going to be huge for his development. I saw Shake up close and personal for parts of 2 seasons with the Bluecoats, and a veteran like Hill, it doesn't get much better than that as a teammate.
No doubt about that. George talked about his leadership role last night following the win over the Pelicans.
I don't know. You know, throughout my whole career, I've just been a guy to just come in and try to do it all. If they need me to knock down shots, get to the basket. But I think one thing that we need to do is have a defensive presence as far as leadership out there. So just trying to come in and do the best I can, being very vocal on the defensive end and letting that presence be known and trying to just lead by example.
One of the leaders of this Sixers team who somehow we have not discussed yet tonight is Mr. Ben Simmons. And Matt, the team hasn't lost since Ben returned to the lineup following his non-COVID illness. The team has won 7 straight, all 7 with Ben. And there's just no denying that Ben has a huge impact on this team, regardless of what his stat line is saying.
I will talk about one stat, the 10 assists in the previous game. It's always great to have that. Another high assist game for the 76ers overall, close to 30. But Ben is just so fast out on the court that it's so much fun to watch him in transition, him on the defensive end. He just sets the tone with his speed so many times. And when he's dishing the ball as well as he was against the Pelicans, when he racks up double-digit assists, the Sixers more often than not come out victorious.
Well, he's putting together a heck of a defensive player of the year case while flirting with triple doubles, as he did once again against the Pelicans last night. 8 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, dangerously close to a triple double. And I got to catch up with Ben following the game. I know that you guys as a starting unit probably weren't dying to come back in tonight, but how good did it feel to cover that deficit so quickly once all 5 starters were back?
I mean, it definitely felt good to get that back. But at the same time, you know, we got to do better. You know, we gotta when we have the leads, we got to hold it. Everyone needs to hold each other accountable on that end. And we got to play better defense. I think overall we didn't really, you know, stop the ball. We let too many drives, you know, get into the lane. So, you know, we got to do a better job.
Looking at these last 5 games, what do you think is left to learn? What are your priorities at the end of the regular season now?
Continue to be us. You know, we still are focused on us and us only and what we can control. So, you know, we got to go out there and get these wins and you know, stay together.
Thanks, Ben. Togetherness remains a priority for all of the Sixers who have been speaking lately. This is a team that really enjoys playing with one another, and Ben Simmons, obviously a keystone part of this team's chemistry. For those of you asking in the comments about Furkan Korkmaz's status, Furkan remains out due to that ankle sprain. We will keep you posted, of course, on his development. And Matt, it's really cool to hear about the developing chemistry on this Sixers team. I don't know if we talk about it enough, but it's still a team that's relatively new to one another, especially when you consider the fact that this season has been so short. The guys that joined the team in the offseason becoming major players. I've really enjoyed the way that they've figured out how to make this team fit productively and win a lot of games as a new group together.
Sure, and I think look no further than your pregame videos of them getting hype on the court as a unit. It's so much fun to watch, and I think a good example is when not to always make it G League related, but Rajon Tucker is a guy that joined the team, and he's right in the mix in those types of pregame things. It really seems like a veteran group that brings the younger guys in, gets them involved. They're all pushing and shoving each other playfully before the games, and I think it has shown on the court in their comfort level with one another. They need everybody on the team. In a game like tonight, they're also going to need everybody because the Detroit bench actually scores the most points in the league. So in terms of a bounce back game for the Sixers bench, they're going to need the whole team tonight because Detroit goes pretty deep as well.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the Detroit Pistons. Love that segue from you, Mr. Matt Murphy. The Pistons 15th in the East. That is last in the conference. They've lost 7 of their last 10. They are on a 1-game winning streak, so they'll be looking to snap the Sixers streak as the underdog tonight. Matt, I do like the Sixers' chances. How are you feeling about this one?
I think it's like I said, a tough back-to-back coming off that weird 3-game road trip. But I also like their chances. I think they got through the one last night. They grinded out a W. We'll see any last-minute inactives or anything like that. But I like their chances. I'm interested to see Saddiq Bey, a local product from Villanova, who's been having a great season for Detroit. We'll see how the Sixers can hold him down. He's been shooting the ball so well. How about this? It's his first pro game at the center because he played college games there at Villanova. A week ago, it was his 10th game of the year with 5 threes in a single game, which broke a tie with Steph Curry and Allen Iverson for the most ever by an NBA rookie. 10 games of 5+ threes in his rookie season. So he is an important part of this Detroit Pistons team.
Matt Murphy, appreciate you bringing that hard-hitting analysis. We got a little bit more warm-up content. And for those of you that are still asking in the comments, those that are questionable for the Sixers, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, we will update you as we learn more about their statuses. Another questionable guy, Jeremy Grant, who has put together a heck of a season for Detroit, former Sixer, who has been showing out. That is for sure.
Yeah, Jeremy Grant's going to play. So as far as I can tell from scrolling the most recent updates, that's an important part of this Pistons team, to say the least. I talk about Saddiq Bey, who is tied for the team lead in minutes per game, or at least close to it at last check. Jeremy Grant is the guy that packs a scoring punch for Detroit. So he is at the top of the defensive game plan for the Sixers, I'm sure.
No doubt about it. Thank you, Matt, for that update. And according to my Tissot PR 100, we are getting close to time for our keys to the game presented by Tissot.
I need to get one of those.
You sure do, Matt. I love my Tissot watch. Very sophisticated, sleek, Swiss-made, and affordable. So thank you, Tissot, as always, for sponsoring this segment. And you know what, Matt? I will go first, as I usually do, with Seltz. I'm going to go ahead and cheat off of Danny Green's test today for my key to the game. My key to the game tonight is a defensive full 48. We heard from Danny saying that he knows his team can unlock another level defensively. It starts at the opening tip. It ends at the final buzzer. If they can bring that power, obviously they are the favorite in tonight's game, regardless of who is available. If they bring that defensive fire throughout, we're going to be in good shape tonight.
I'm hoping the shot clock resets and that I get a fresh 24. And there it goes. Fresh shot clock. And I'm going to borrow on the defensive side of the floor and go with protecting the paint in particular. Doc Rivers said he thought 2 games ago against Houston that the Rockets lived in the paint. New Orleans guards, he also said last night, were having their way off the dribble. So I think locking down the perimeter, just in general, quickly, both of these teams tonight, Pistons and Sixers, average 47 in the paint. So stopping the penetration, no easy buckets, trying to give up less points in the paint, I think is going to be a key tonight for Philadelphia.
I am all about 2 defensive keys to the game. This team has desired making their money on defense all season long, and that hard work has shown up. Matt Murphy, they remain second in the league in defensive rating, 106.8, just behind the best defensive rating in the league with the Los Angeles Lakers at a 106.7. And a lot of that is thanks, of course, to Joel Embiid, to Ben Simmons, to Matisse Thybulle, all 3 of whom made NBA.com's Defensive Player of the Year ladder this week. There is Joel Embiid, all 3 of those guys in the top 10. And you cannot deny just how impactful Joel Embiid has been on both ends of the floor. Doc Rivers was asked about his MVP case prior to tonight's game, and he said that the whole locker room would celebrate that together. And Matt, I think it's really cool to hear that the whole team continues to galvanize behind Joel, and Joel continues to put up those MVP level numbers.
It's great to see the big fella out there warming up. I think just having him available so far during this tough stretch of games in terms of sheer volume is huge. And you look for him to get back to the line tonight. I mean, someone like Isaiah Stewart from Detroit, they have some guys in the paint, but some young guys. And last night when Jackson Hayes tried to step in against Joel Embiid, Joel went to work and then even at one point patted Jackson Hayes on the chest. Like, you've got a little while to go here to the young guy. And I think Detroit has many players similar to that, but it's good to see him available, at least right now, for warmups. And just during this stretch, how he's been so relied upon by the Sixers.
Well, up until very recently, Matt, Joel was one of those young guys. So cool to see him have a now veteran, now MVP candidate moment with a rising star in Jackson Hayes. I love that moment as well. Good to see Joel warming up. He remains questionable per Doc Rivers prior to our stream, as is Ben Simmons, as is Seth Curry. Furkan Korkmaz remains out, but stay tuned for updates. The Sixers can provide those on Twitter. Lots of great reporters on the beat will do the same. We have about 45 minutes prior to tip as the Sixers take on Detroit, the second night of a back-to-back, looking for their 8th straight. Follow along on NBC Sports Philadelphia Plus. Tom McGinnis will have the call on 97.5 The Fanatic. Brian Coletti, Trevor Gaffney, thank you so much for being on the sticks for this episode of 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. Matt Murphy, what did you think? Did you enjoy your time here? Was it reasonably hospitable?
It was awesome, Lauren. Great job as always. And you and Brian always do a great job. I'm glad that I could play a role tonight. Now I just need to have my people check in on the watch situation going forward.
I don't know about any of that good stuff, Matt, but you certainly made tonight's show better. Thank you so much for joining me. Everybody enjoy tonight's game. Stay safe, and thank you for tuning in.